Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the episode I think you guys have been waiting for. I hope you watched the movie or the documentary because spoiler alert, I'm just going to dive in and we're going to talk about every part of it. So, no holding back. This is your warning. If you have not watched the documentary, The Devil in the Home, The Fall of Ruby Frank, definitely advise you to go ahead and press pause right now and head to Hulu and go ahead and watch the first episode. There's three parts to this documentary, and the first part is called Abundance. So let's go ahead and dive right on in because I want to know what you all think, and I am going to let you all know what is. So, first of all, the documentary starts off with the daughter um, talking about her experience in it a little bit. She just kind of goes in a little easy. Um, you know, just bringing awareness, to her situation. So the daughter's name is Sherry, and I think Sherry's the oldest one of. I turn my laptop back on, but Sherry's the oldest one of the six kids. So for you all who don't care about watching it or have watched it already, I know some about it, but not everything. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cover it all. So Ruby Frank is the main person that this documentary is about. And she is a 40-year-old Caucasian woman who is married to a gentleman that she went to school with. I believe they went to high school together, is where they met. Um, but they got married, I think, back in 2000, and they have six kids together. And Ruby, um, wanted to start vlogging. Now, according to Kevin, the husband, says that she initiated this vlogging because she didn't feel appreciated or got enough attention as she wanted to be portrayed and acknowledged and appreciated for being a good mother. So, in addition to that, she wanted to shed light on what it is like living a simple Mormon happy life. So she lives in Utah, um, in an area what they acknowledge as Happyville. And so she wanted to share that with the world, I guess. And so people can see how they live. And it's actually something that the whole community took part in. But Ruby's vlog, her family took off. They became one of the most popular families that were vlogging from their community. So I think they started this probably back in 2015. And actually, the way I even learned about the documentary and what was going on is that my oldest daughter had told me about it. And she said, back when it first came on, she had a little crush on the oldest son, Chad. And she said that was the only reason why she watched it, as they acknowledged in the documentary that that's that was the pinpoint, that was the age group that they reached out to the most, was young girls because of Chad. So I guess the young girls liked him, and they was crushing on him, so they would tune in all the time, so it became a big thing. But my daughter said, she watched it for him, but when she noticed the mom and her disposition, she said something wasn't right with her. So she immediately was like, I stopped watching it because I didn't like the way the mom was. She was like, she just seemed weird. And that was the way she described her. She seemed weird, but she was like, I couldn't put my finger on it. She's like, but at that time, I just thought she was weird. So I stopped watching it. So I'm like, well, okay. And she was like, but now, all this time later, because she knew the show, she was like, she finds out that the mom ends up getting arrested and is being charged for 6 counts of child abuse. And so she's like, oh my God, I knew something was off with her. Like, she's like, I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was off when I seen her on screen. So I kind of want to go into those kind of details and actually look and examine and discuss what was going on and just taking a little bit deeper look. All right. So the reason and how she ended up getting found out about what everything was going on is because the youngest son escaped. I know the documentary kind of starts backwards, but the child escaped from where they was holding him hostage, basically, and went to a neighbor's house a couple doors down and asked the man to contact the police because he had something important that he needed to discuss with them. So he was very mature about it, but he knew what he needed to do, and it was time. So, and it took a lot of courage to do that. Um, and so, you have to grow up fast, and it's all like so sad. And what's wild is that that's the truth and that's the reality. I know that this is an isolated incident that people are focused on right now because it's in the media, but from somebody who used to work for CPS, like this is so common, so common as far as like parents, having to go through the court system for some sort of child abuse, whether it's like truancy, actual physical, a sexual child abuse, neglect. You see all that from parents that, deal with and struggle with drug abuse, even, from infants and everything. So you see all kinds of things in the community, in your very own community. And it's more prevalent because they only show so many of those cases in the news. So every day, all day long, court is going on. In family court is so many cases. And, of course, some is a lot milder than others. But here in Kentucky, we have like I think, when I was going to conferences, they estimated about 10,000 children just in Kentucky alone that need placement for foster homes. So with CPS though, the goal and idea behind that program is not necessarily to take the kids away. It's actually is meant to be um, a type of program to be implemented to reinstate the kids back to the parents' custody. So, what traditionally and what should happen is if there is a call that is made and if it's substantiated, then that's when you move forward and you have to appear in court and see the judge. So what the judge is going to do is they're going to take account for everything that happens as far as the report, and then they're going to create the court orders that the parents are going to have to follow. Now I'm saying this in cases that are not like this one here, because this one is pretty like extreme in a lot of things that was going on. So this is gonna skip all the beginning parts, but some of those cases that come through there, like that are milder cases that are going on, that's how they get started. You go to family court, you appear at court, you get to stake your claim, explain to the judge if it's deemed necessary, and the judge is going to write court orders. And a lot of those court orders, if it has something to do with substance abuse on the behalf of the parents, then they will have to be assigned to do some type of like substance abuse, something treatment as far as checking in, doing drug tests. They do drug tests to see what is in their system. They'll do it several different ways. So you're going to have, like, of course, your urine tests. Let me say it more. But they're gonna have your urine test. They can do the hair. They can do your nails, and they are looking for any and all drugs that is gonna change, the parents' mindset that have them so induced in a comatose state that neglect is bound to happen. So, um, but they will remove the kids and they will take the kids and put them in first order of business. They are more likely, if you have somebody that is willing to take the kids on, they're going to place the kids with family. Family goes first, and then they don't want to or try to avoid separating the kids. You always want to keep the kids together. So wherever they go, your primary placement that you want to do that is best for the kids is for the kids to go somewhere with family all together. Now, if that is not something that can happen and transpire for their family, then those children will go into the foster care, foster system. So, depending on the availability of foster parents, then those kids can go into a foster home, depending on their age. Because, of course, people who want to be foster parents are looking to either maintain that position of doing foster care for the income and to connect and help the community, but also looking to adopt, and see what it's like, bringing in a family. So you're helping. A lot of times with foster care, it is intended to be temporary. So a lot of times, if the family or the parents or whoever's, the guardian of those kids originally they got taken away from, if they are not able to complete all of the court orders that was assigned by the judge, then that's when those children are permanently removed. So you usually get a minimum of about 9 months, but it can go as long as about a year and a half. Um, it's like kind of the sweet spot before you see the children actually totally get removed and rights are completely terminated. But there are so many things that happen in between time, so many court dates. There's a lot of opportunity and room for the parents to get back on track, whatever that is. If it's truancy, and depending on the reason for the truancy and kids not going to school, because I've seen cases where the parents might be depressed. I actually had a case where the mom was extremely depressed because the father was murdered in the home and she found him. So that caused for extreme depression to a place where she mentally wasn't there and couldn't really care and provide for her and didn't have the support that she needed to raise, because I think she had about 6 kids. So she didn't have the support to raise those kids. And so it's not necessarily at fault. It's due to circumstances of what she had going on that she wasn't able to provide the way that she needed to be. She wasn't able to show up for herself. So, and even with that being said, it's the importance of why I preach and talk about self care, doing for yourself, doing more, taking account of what you do for yourself, and just getting to know yourself, because those are healthy practices that's going to keep you in alignment and keep you on track and feeding yourself and your soul. That substances is not something that you want to lean in on. So you want to, stay clean, stay focused, do what you need to do for yourself. Shadow work is kind of the stuff that we kind of touch on as far as like the journal entries and the things that you are thinking about when you're processing, when you're doing your journal entry. But making sure that you are doing that self-care is what is going to help balance those things out. So some of the triggers that you may have in relationships with friends and family, um, doing your self-care, attending to yourself and your needs is what's going to help offset some of the things that you tend to have to deal with. So, and that's what building that resilience is all about. So that's why I preach journal entries and doing things for yourself so much, because it's so vital, it's so important, and you're just feeding yourself that good medicine. So, but back to what I was saying. So there's so much that happens in this process, as far as family court and children getting removed. But in this case, there was so much that was going on. Like, these kids was malnourished. Like, to see is sad. Is so sad to see that little boy and seeing his bones. It's just skin and bones, and then to know that, you know, if you watch the documentary, she had him in a basement, and it just wasn't in the basement. It was behind a vault in the basement with a whole nother side. Um, and then even locked up in the closet in there. It was like, oh my God. And tying them up, and then they saying that they had like honey and maybe lemon or something that was in the room that they was using to clean um some of the contusions and stuff and lacerations that he had. I so twisted. Like, I don't understand. um it's definitely mental illness that plays a part in that. And you've heard it before, hurt people. And what you tend to see when working with people or just knowing people, period, is those same traumas that they inflict, the same pain in the same way they inflict or was inflicted or may have, endured themselves. That's what they play out in some, a lot of times in situations. If it's somebody who's going to take that pain and never processes, never goes through with it, and never deals with those sore areas, a lot of times people are not able to, and I ain't gonna say a lot, but there's a significant number of people that are not able to grow from the pain that they were in. So that's why you have people that end up, abusing substances, but also where you have people that will come and do the same things that were done to them to their children. So those are some of the things that you might hear referred to as like generational trauma and things that are being passed down from one generation to the next. So if back in the day, if parents was giving whoopings with a belt, like, that is something that's a practice, that's a form of discipline that's in that family, that's normal to that family. And that's a lot of times too what keep people stuck and isolated, is because those type of things is normal in their household. So they don't know no better. They don't know that that was not the type of things that they should be experiencing, because the love in the home is not there. All they know is trauma. So, but it looks like in the Frank family, uh, I, in the beginning, yes, like it seemed like everything was normal, everything was fine. As the kids said, I think Chad had mentioned that, um, how his mom seemed nice. She was much nicer when they first got started. And that's when he was wanting to engage more into vlogging. But it wasn't until she started being more persistent, more demanding, for them to participate into the vlogging, when it was no longer an option and it was more of a duty that it needs to be done. And it's not so much the sake for the money, because even Kevin mentions that in one of the episodes that, for Ruby, it was never about the money. It was never about the money. It was about her being viewed and being seen as a good mother. So, yes, but I think that message too also got lost in translation. And I think that also went to as far as the power and the control that comes behind that. Because a lot of that was going on and what she was doing had a lot to do with power and control and discipline. That was one of the things that was a form of respect that she saw, was obeying your parents. So I suspect that that was something that was very important in her household growing up, was showing respect. And so for her, with her kids, was a matter of showing respect by being disciplined. You do as I tell you to do. You do what you know you're supposed to do. And I think with the religion that they practice, being Mormons, there's a level of perfectionism that needs to be met. So we need to keep the house clean. So she was having them clean the house. And, not even just for the sake of perfectionism, too, is also wanting and needing to be perfect because you're on camera all the time. You know what I mean? So there's the pressure of perception. and how people view you. So obviously that was one of the things that she had dealt with, was perception and worrying about what people think of you. So again, I'm going to take that back to doing the work. That's why it's so important to do the work, is because it shouldn't matter what other people think of you. You know what I mean? When you begin to learn yourself, when you begin to know who you are, when you begin to doing the work and trusting yourself, building confidence within yourself, it doesn't matter what other people think. You know, you do things for you, not for how people view you. You know what I mean? You do it because you want to do it. You do it because you are being fed your spirit. You know, you can post something or do something and nobody has to like it. You know what I mean? But you still like, I wanted to do this for me. I'm doing this because, but don't get caught up of what people are seeing. Now, that's a fine line that people, fail to realize because of this internet that we have and social media and having so much quick access to each other. So, back in the day, we didn't have all of this, Um, when I was growing up, that's when the internet was first introduced to us. So I actually got to have the time to actually watch the internet and social media and relationships with people in the internet and the computer itself change and grow and transpire over time. So it is much different than the way it started out. So, and it has impacted of mental health significantly. It's caused a lot of depression with people, insecurities with people, because people are now comparing themselves to each other. You know what I mean? And more people. It's not even just your neighbor. You're not comparing yourself just to your peers that you see at school. It's you're comparing yourself to people that you have no idea what's going on in their life. You know what I mean? You're comparing yourself to what people are portraying to you on camera. You know what I mean? You never know what people are dealing with. So that's why you have to be able to take a step back and kind of look at yourself and reevaluate and know that, appreciate what people are bringing to the table, to the picture. Understand and know that whatever they're bringing at that moment is a highlight wheel. You know what I mean? It's a highlight of their day, of that moment. But at some point, they was probably in the same shoes as you, are in similar situations. Everybody are not handed a silver spoon. So some people, have to work for what they get. And some people could be further along on their journey, but we're all on this journey together. So it's just all about doing the work. So it's a lot. It's a lot for Ruby to deal with, with having what seems like the background that she had. They don't really discuss it in the episode. They don't go into what her childhood was like or what her parents were like or anything like that. Since the release of the documentary, her parents have now pretty much, her sisters and stuff, have disowned her and separated themselves from her, for obvious reasons. So, it's just sad. It is sad all the way around because, it just is. I mean, she didn't get the help that she needed. And that's what's the messed up part, because her whole life she didn't take care of herself and her own needs, her personal needs, her soul needs, um, her mental health needs. Like, just not being seen and not having the knowledge and not having the know-how and not being exposed to certain things in her life that would have been beneficial and would have taken her life in a different direction if she would have been able to get the help she needed. But they say there's no mistakes, so it, her walk and what she has done is very sad, but it's a great opportunity to learn from her experience. And so that is what I am intending to do with this platform and this channel, and even discussing it with you guys right now, is to just touch on and assessing what happened and be able to learn from what happened, to grow, to discuss, to process, to understand, not just for yourself, but to have grace for and compassion for people around you, even the direct relationships with your parents. Maybe there's some things that you have had to deal with your own parents, that you don't, you deem as wasn't right, you know, by your standards, but you never know what your parents had to deal with themselves. So when you're able to look back and reflect on those kind of things, and think about the era and the time that they grew up, think about, what their parents were dealing with, because sometimes if you look a little deeper, you might recognize, oh, um, my mom was dealing with a loss at that time. She lost her mother, so that's why she wasn't able to show up for me during that time, because at that time she lost her mother. I was only 7. Those kind of things that you have to take in consideration. And once you experience those kind of losses yourself, and you like, oh my God, this is what my mother felt when I was 7. Oh, this is wow. You know what I mean? No wonder she was the way that she was. And it's not into those moments, unfortunately, that people begin to see and learn the lesson and the values, of those kind of relationships, but also seeing and understanding, and having some type of, perspective of their parents, and whoever it is that they had to deal with in those kind of situations. So that's what life is all about, is looking at things and reassessing, changing your mindset, having compassion, and growing from there, and moving, forward with that wisdom and knowledge, to make better decisions as you move forward. So anyways, let's get back to, this documentary. I told you I can go off on a tangent or whatever. But yeah, so Sherry, her main focus was on the abuse, which, is understandable. But she also, and this is the oldest daughter, Sherry, um, she focused on the abuse, but also, pinpointing and saying that her mom's psychotic. Now, in doing my research about the actual documentary, I was looking at this forensic psychologist perspective on it, and she had talked about blankly just using the term psychotic. People are always using the term psychotic. Well, yeah, because everybody doesn't have a master's degree or doctorate in mental health world, psychology world. So no, people don't know that it falls under, because they was talking about how it falls under antisocial personality disorder. But not even just necessarily that. It could be some type of any kind of personality disorder where, hallucinations, delusion, and lack of empathy could be applied in those kind of situations. And specifically with psychotic, the term, according to the DSM-5, is a lot of what they was talking about. That diagnosis really is pertaining to a situation and being in that mindset. The Kentucky came out. The mindset that of that person during that time happens, within a month or less. But the way that these things have prolonged and exhibit, psychotic is a blanket statement. You know what I mean? It wouldn't necessarily, I mean, yes, for layman's terms in the community and public, yes, it's very psychotic behavior. However, there's a lot of other layers and a lot of other things that could be playing on that. It just have to be a mental health evaluation that needs to be done on her, to really understand and know what was really going on, because it could be anything from bipolar disorder, with psychotic episodes, or schizophrenia, just to name a couple things that it could be. But it's definitely something in personality disorder that she has going on there. um which is not easy, to deal with. And especially when you're coming together with someone that is just, is evil. You know, Jody, the therapist, um, or the counselor, she was a professional counselor. Yeah, she didn't give the necessary or the needed help, And I feel like the kids and people are tending to focus a lot on Ruby. Yes, what Ruby did was horrible, very horrible. But also, which I'm glad that the counselor also got the same sentence, because she is just as much accountable, and in some perspectives more accountable, for what happened. Because although, Ruby had issues going on, she wasn't that bad. She got worse when she got connected to Jody. So Jody was very much a negative influence, and it just took it to a whole nother level. And they was feeding off each other. You know what I mean? So it's a lot to consider, when you're pointing the finger, are wanting to just pinpoint. And I understand that, as the child, Sherry, and looking at her mom and then having the expectations that she should have been this kind of way, she should have been nice, she should have been, but there's so many other things. And then just to think about that she was in her 40s, that is a significant time of your life where there is a lot of transitions, a lot of changes. People call, know it as the midlife crisis. So, and that shows up in different ways. It's not necessarily just going out and buying some type of expensive car, or having an affair or anything like that. And it's a very much of a wake up moment, but it's usually some type of, you know, significant event that can be held around that, whether if you're going through a divorce, but just dealing with who you are, changing in career. Um, but to me, looking at Ruby, is her thing was not feeling good enough and wanting to be appreciated of being a mother. You know what I mean? Um, but I think that itself too is very hard, because as mothers, I don't feel like we get the appreciation that we should. But I think that is something that we have to take on the chin, because we don't. We have Mother's Day. You have people that get flowers and things, or may not. Um, However, being a mother is a lot of work, and it's a 24/7 job that does not end, that does not give breaks unless you create them breaks yourself, but you are always on call. You're always responsible, and it's a huge responsibility. So, you know, you parenting is a labor of love. And if you're doing it from a place of love with a healthy mindset, you understand, and you know that you're not going, you know what I mean? You shouldn't expect it, and you're not going to get the appreciation that you deserve, because you do so much. You give so much to your children and your family, because, you know, you want better for them. At least that's the idea, of being a parent, is you want them to live a better life than you did, and you want to build them and for them to, be successful in life. So get further than what you did is the goal. That's how I view it. So everybody, you want that appreciation, but baby, you got to take that one on the chin, honey, and just do it, because that is your seed. You know what I mean? Those are your children. So regardless if you get the accolades or the acknowledgement, the attention, and the appreciation that you feel that you deserve, I mean, as much work as I do, I don't feel like I'm ever gonna get enough, But I'm not looking for it, in that way and like that at that level, because she is like taking it to creating a whole vlog to be like, I need to get my attention, and I'm not getting it from the people around me. because I want to be seen as a good mother, and then taking it to vlogging so the whole world could see how great of a mother you are to give you praise. But again, you're only seeing one aspect. You're only seeing what she wants you to see. So if you're only seeing the perfect side of her being a mother, of course you're going to be like, oh, she's great. She's a great mother, da 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 da. Because she's only showing you all what she wants y'all to see. Um, you know, I can't remember if I don't think it's this first episode, but she talked about how she knew what she was doing was wrong because she stopped taking the kids to school. And so much so that she ended up pulling them out of school to homeschool them. But then they wasn't even getting it online to do homeschool. Well, that probably sounds like everybody's 2020. But this did not take place in 2020. So you have to deal with the consequences of that. You have to deal with truancy. And if you know that you are abusing home, a lot of times that's what people do. They try to hide it. CPS already knows that though. But, people try to hide it and stay away from being caught because they don't want to get in trouble. But if you keep playing that game and you not making any changes and any improvements in your life and the way you doing and providing for your kids, then you just making it worse for yourself because you just digging the hole even deeper and you just gonna have more consequences and things that you're gonna have to deal with. However, you live and you learn. But I tell you what, this is a tall lesson. And I'm telling you what, she was looking for appreciation. She got 60-year sentence appreciation for the bullshit, excuse my language, that she did to these kids and allowed. Um, and so again, it's like it totally does not sit well with me. It almost feels like it's a little something that's missing that we don't know that played a factor in that. And one of those things is just I'm wondering what was going on in the background. What does her history look like? What did she grow up with? And is there any other influence that had caused this? Because I'm thinking to myself, what would make me want to collab with another woman to torture my children? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, when did that mental break happen that you like, oh yeah, I see demons on them. I see the devil on them. I see that they're possessed and you want to tie them up and you want them to repent. Did the babies not say that they wasn't going to repent to the Lord? And as young as they are, I'm pretty sure that they would have followed suit and whatever she would have told them and said, hey, you need to repent to the Lord. I'm sure that those young children that were like 7, 8, 9, 10 would have been like, I repent, Lord. Forgive me. Just because your mom's like pressuring you to say it, to do it, to do it, to do it. And they were used to her being very pushy to do certain things. And that was one of the downfalls and what kind of became a strain within the family dynamic is because the longer they started getting into vlogging, she became more obsessed. She became more controlling. She became a lot, tighter about her schedule, making sure that they are doing what they need to do in a timely fashion. And I feel like, when you're not used to getting that attention and you going from really no attention, you are getting breadcrumbs that you feel like of attention to becoming America's mom. That was feeding her. That I mean, that's a different kind of power, like I don't think people really, I don't know. I mean, can y'all grasp what the difference is from going from none to this magnitude of attention and the power that it has? And then, you know, so watch the documentary. They went from making like $85 on a YouTube video Once they really got, consistent, to making over $100,000 a month. And so it really brought on a lot more opportunities and resources for them to do. But that is a testament that just came to my mind. That is a testament that money don't bring happiness. You know what I mean? Money is not. Now, I will say initially, if you ain't used to money, you will enjoy it, in the beginning, you know, because you get to do things that you ain't used to. And if those are your desires, whatever it is, you now have the opportunity to do it. But if you're not prepared to receive the blessing that God has placed in your life, and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, or not even, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And so with her not being used to that attention, and that's a huge scale. Like sometimes, you know, I've noticed just in weight loss, looking at people doing, these weight loss journeys, you go from being one size and losing a significant amount of weight. And I'm talking about 50, 60, 70 pounds or more that you lose. That's going to bring a different amount of attention to that person. And if you're not prepared or ready for that amount of attention that you are getting that you didn't used to get, that can lead down to just a nasty, terrible rabbit hole. Because you are now like getting everything that you wanted. You know what I mean? Everything that you're like, you were missing, and that you fantasized about but had no idea how good it could be or how good it would feel once you got there. And you're totally not prepared. So people lose their mind is what I say. Is what I see. They just lose their mind and you're just like, whoa. Whoa there. Um, but it hit her. It hit her. All that attention, it hit her. It hit her real good in the head because she lost the marbles. She lost all the marbles when it came, because the lady done collab with this counselor and just doing some unthinkable things. And I just, to me, I don't understand how you collab with someone and you have your spouse there. You have a spouse that is there, that is providing. He is a doctor, professor, um, so, and a nerd, a self-proclaimed nerd. So, and all he ever wanted was her and to be with someone that, accepted and wanted him. So he said he was, would do just about anything. Um, but she was the dominant one. She's the one who had control. So he still had to follow suit. As nice as he could be, he still had to follow suit with her because it was her way or no way. She ran the show. So a mess, a whole mess. And I'm just like, and what even brought the counselor on is because of the vlogging. Um, her attitude and disposition in the home changed, and because she was, being more controlling and not that sweet or kind mom that she was, and being more lenient and flexible with the kids and not having so many demands on the kids. Once they became employees, it was like a whole different relationship, that she did not separate and allow the kids to be just kids versus being employees on the show. These kids can't work. First of all, this is child labor laws that needs to be looked into with these kids, because it's like you having these babies work all day long, all the time. Like once they come home from school, and then had the po' boy sleeping on the daggone bean bag for 7 months. Of course he's gonna act out. You got him sleeping on the bean bag for 7 months, woman. So of course he goes and he acts out, and now you want him to have a therapist to put him back in shape. because him sleeping on beanbags wasn't enough. And then the poor boy, Chad, who's what I'm talking about, goes along with it, kind of jokingly, lightly at first, but it's not until Jody like calls him out. And I think being called out in that moment for him was like actually being seen. You know what I mean? He couldn't put up that facade with her because she can see right through him and say, "Hey, you don't really want to do this. I already know. Like, don't lie to me and say you want to do this." So I think that is kind of like what shook him. And I feel like that happens a lot of time with people. When you have somebody who can see straight through you and know that you lying to them, or knowing that you're not presenting who you truly are and your authentic self. Oh yeah, when you got somebody to call you out, that makes them feel uncomfortable because you know, they have a shield there for a reason. You know what I mean? Like they're hiding themselves for whatever reason. So when you call somebody out, they don't necessarily like it. And so, um, but he took it and went with it, but it actually seemed like it kind of gave him a sense of like um trustworthiness and kind of in her, or just being able to see her ability um in the work that she does. And I think that with Jody, that it was the thing um for her. That was like one of her gifts in the way that she was able to connect with so many people, is because she was very knowledgeable. She was a very smart woman. She was very intelligent in her craft, in her field. So she was able to take the information that she learned from her field and apply that and connect it to people. So, what she had was a gift, but she used it in the wrong way. And so she began to exploit those people and use those people and doing her own devilish demonic ways, and manipulating the people and making them feel bad. It was a lot of passive aggressive, microaggressive acts it seemed like that she would do. If once you move on to the next episode, you'll begin to see what I'm talking about. But Jody, it's just my personal opinion. I just, I guess because of someone that, is has been in the mental health field, and I've always considered myself to be a mental health advocate because that's where it's all at. You know what I mean? The conversation again, which you have with yourself, is one of the most important conversations that you ever gonna have. You know what I mean? Because is what you are telling yourself and what you believe is how you end up making your decisions in life, the path and direction that you're going to go on. When you say yes to this and say no to this, that's why it's so important to getting to know yourself, because you learn your boundaries and like, oh, this makes me feel uncomfortable. Oh, I don't agree with this, or I don't want to take part in that. So I feel like, and what it sounds like is Ruby didn't do any of that work. Ruby was not doing her soul work. She was not doing no inner reflecting. She was only living to be validated by external factors. And that ain't the way to live and ain't the way to be, because you're going to shuck and jive. You're not going to get to connect with who you truly are, because you're only doing it for show. And so that is the root of personality disorders, because it's a facade. You know what I mean? It's a mask. You ain't who you truly are, because you're trying to be something that people, because you're, people pleasing. You're appeasing people because you want the attention. You know what I mean? You want the accolades to come along with being the perfect mom, and you're not. You know what I mean? And a part of being human and having the human experience, period, is to know that nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, and there's the whole reason why we even here on this earth anyway, is to learn who we are and learn from our mistakes and grow. You know, um, we always don't get it right the first time, and so it's from those experiences that we have that we have to grow from. So, unfortunately, it took a whole lot for her to learn her lesson. But she's definitely gonna have the time to sit down and reflect now. She gonna need to pick up a journal and do some inward work, because it's gonna be a hell of a time in that prison too. Because you about to spend. And here's another thing: the woman got 60 years, y'all. She got 60 years. Her and the counselor both got 60 years. However, according to Utah's codes that they have, even though this was federal charges, Utah's codes say that they don't have to serve more than 30 years. So they're going to have to serve 30 years. However, because I was doing my research, people will keep talking about her serving a maximum of 30 years. She got 4 counts. She was sentenced to 1 to 30 years. So she can serve a minimum of 4 up to 30 for the both of them. So we gonna see how long they gonna stay in there. It's gonna be a minimum of 4. So will they have to stay in there the remaining of the time? I don't know. I don't know. And if they get out in 10 years, those babies are gonna only be 20 something, 30 something. And again, that is a whole issue in itself if they get out in 10 years, because your abuser now is coming out of prison. And that's a whole nother ball game and a whole nother set of traumas and things that you got to deal with. So, preferably, these people, the children that were abused, they're able to get the right mental health and help and support that they need, so they can move through the pain, move through the trauma, and come out on the other side in the most healthiest way possible, so they can grow, so they, if at some point that they do get out and during their adulthood, they are prepared, level minded, um, so they can deal with what comes along with potentially re-encounter and reconnecting, just, and I say reconnecting in the lightest form, just to speak or to be in the same presence as her, um, is definitely an emotional process and a journey to even get to that space, and I'm talking about way down the line. So because then again, will these kids, even when they become adults, even go and visit her? I mean, pretty sure not, but at some point, with them being Mormon, I there's a chance that one of them may, because they said, according to the documentary, I think the other LCSW social work therapist that was on there, he spoke about the community and what they believe in as Mormons, and that's just to live a perfect lifestyle. Um, so if the goal is to be perfect, and they continue to practice the same religion and carry the same mindsets that come from that programming or religion, um, I can see that maybe one of them will at least try or attempt to forgive her and put themselves in a position of, because that's a mother wound, so there's the potential of wanting to get that approval and connecting with their mother, because they didn't have her in their life in the way that they needed her to be. So I tell you who it won't be: Sherry. Sherry done gave up all her ass. Is like, baby girl done wrote her book and everything. So she's like, bump that. Sherry gonna be like, she tried it. That baby ain't got no remorse. She ain't got no empathy, sympathy, and I can't blame her. It is what it is. That's how she feel, and that's how she roll, and she's sticking to it. Baby girl said, "I'm done. I'm done and I'm out. Now, Chad, on the other hand, he, even though he was acting out, he still seemed like he, had, compassion and understanding, because he was able to reflect back and say, hey, my mom was nice and she was good until she wasn't. And when she wasn't, I didn't like it, but he really, I'm sure he didn't feel like, because, he was a child, he didn't feel like he had the power to speak up and to tell her, hey, you know, and most of the kids are saying is, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't know why I don't want to do this. I'm not happy when I'm doing this. I don't want to do this. And she just took it as being disobedient, But them kids, Lord, them poor babies. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm wondering what y'all thought about it, what happened, was going on in there. And the lady, she didn't have no friends, but the lady didn't want no friends. Ruby, that woman didn't want no friends, because then she got to expose herself. Then you get to see the real side of her that she was hiding. She couldn't stay masked with people that was that close to her. So I think that was part of the reason why she stayed so distant, and why they was like relationships wasn't important for her. No, it wasn't. It was getting the attention, and the praise for what she was doing. What was important to her. Personal development and relationships, and developing and growing through relationships was not important to her at all. Putting on a show, a play, an act. Yes, that was what was important to her. The way she was being perceived. And you guys, you see how toxic that is? You see how toxic that can be for someone? That's why you got to get to know yourself. That's why it's so important. I know I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but I need y'all to get the picture, get the point. Like, there is reasons, and I know I get on here and I be like, oh, y'all need to do this journal and da 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 da. And it's like, it's way more to it. You know what I mean? I recommend it, and I tell you guys these things because of my own journey, because I know that what I went through and some of the things that I've had to deal with in my life, those are the things that help me. Those are the things that help me develop, help me to grow, help me to change my perspective, help me to find peace in my life, within myself, and to achieve goals that I had set out for myself. So, had I not done those things and actually was doing the work, yeah, I probably would be messed up, but it's because of the work that I did, I'm able to sit here today and be a testimony to you guys, and to share the information that I know will help you guys. I just need y'all to pick it up and run with it, though. Just pick it up and run with it. Because it'll save your life. And it's simplest things. You be like, so me going bike riding, or me going to the park and sitting for like 30 minutes to an hour. I like to sit for 2 hours by myself. So just me going to go sit by myself doing nothing is life saving. Because it give you the opportunity to connect with whoever you serve, whoever you view as God, a higher power than yourself, whatever religion you practice. It gives you an opportunity to sit alone with yourself, to process, or to think about nothing. It helps calm your body. It helps in so many different ways. It helps with your connection to nature, with Mother Earth. It helps you connect, on the spiritual side, with the divine, with your ancestors, depending on, where you are in your spiritual journey. But also on the physiology side of it, is helping your central nervous system. It is helping you, especially when you're doing that grounding, or what they call earthing, and putting your feet in the grass. Yeah, that's helping you to release the emotions and feelings, balancing out things within your body. It's so many benefits that you gain from having those moments and just sitting. You are helping your body and your mind and your spirit heal. in so many different ways for doing something so simple. So simple. I'm telling y'all, meditate, chill, and drink some water. Shh, that was my daddy's favorite line. You gotta go somewhere and sit down. And when I got older, I added and drank some water. So it's you better go somewhere and sit down and drink some water. It's the best thing for you. And it could be um so revealing, not just revealing on who you are and yourself, but it could be revealing to some of the situations that you have going on. Whether if it's like things at work that you need to deal with or relationships with people, it gives you the opportunity to whatever you're dealing with at that time in that moment, you can able to have that time to sit and process it and think about it. But don't spend your whole time thinking about it either. You sit and process it, but you have to be consistent with giving yourself that time because then you will realize and you will have those moments and opportunities to just sit and do nothing. Just to breathe, breathe. And that technique by itself is healing too for the mind. Oxygenating your cells in your mind it's those are some of the tiniest, most fundamental things that you can do that are so beneficial, extremely beneficial. And it's a practice that I don't feel like it's rewarded and pushed enough. So definitely get into it. Get into it. Um, sometime soon because I don't know if y'all been able to notice this whole episode. You heard I got a cold. I've been dealing with a cold. That's what it took me so long to even get this episode out. I have been out of it. The weather has been up and down and around and around. And I was out in the night air with no hoodie on. So it took me out. But I'm back at it. I'm feeling a whole lot better. I'm still recovering though. But yeah. Watch the episode again and look at and see, what y'all think about it and, take a little notes and stuff of stuff that, you pinpoint out of it that you like, and then go to the next episode and see what you think. Because this next episode that we're going to get into, we're going to talk about Miss Jody. Lord. Lord, you know what? I'm gonna tell you right now, Jody ain't the only one. Jody's not the only one, and I came to that realization, probably about a month or two ago, that Jody's not the only one in this world doing that. There's people probably right in your town that is doing the same thing Jody did, having the same type of personality, doing the same work in mental health, doing the same kind of things, and are not haven't been caught, not still practicing all the wrong things with our clients, and still getting praised for it because they ain't been found out yet. People don't know who they got, and that's why it's important to vet your therapist, vet your counselor. People come with referrals, but sometimes those people are delusional about who that person is and don't really know them. So you want to go ahead and vet them and look through different avenues. Don't just take one person's word for it. You have a friend that referred you, but they were a client too. If at all possible, find somebody else that's in that world too. If you looking for a therapist, find another therapist in your community that might know that person and ask, and listen to what they're saying and read in between the lines and listen to what they didn't tell you. Because sometimes that is very telling too. So, because people don't want to be outed um, or out somebody else, you know what I mean? And don't want to, be named for outing whoever it is. So sometimes people will tell you stuff, but they ain't going to give you all the details. So you got to be able to read it in between the lines too. So that's my advice on that. Um, And I'm still gonna give y'all a journal prompt. I'm still gonna give y'all a journal prompt. Just to add to, this conversation. And what's funny, because y'all know what I've been doing these last few episodes is I go ahead and pull a numerology card. And this episode was titled Abundance in this. And so the card that I pulled out, and you see that? The number 48, and it says financial discipline. I said, oh, well, that kind of aligns with abundance, financial discipline. So let's write about what that means to you. You know what I mean? Um, Financial discipline is an act of love for yourself, love for your pockets. But the financial discipline helps create a path to living a successful lifestyle. So when you have the financial discipline, you're able to be independent, you're able to support yourself, you're able to reach goals, whatever those goals are. If you're wanting to go on vacation or save a significant amount of money, I have a savings. Now, I will say the economy is messed up right now. So it's very hard with rent prices being high as hell. So financial discipline is one of the important things into helping yourself get into a better position. So it's something that you want to work on, and it's something that you know, it's green because money is green, but it also represents the heart chakra. So when you are working from your heart chakra and doing some healing work, that also helps you align with becoming financial discipline. I know you probably don't see the connection now, but there is one. Uh, um, but as you begin to learn your chakras and all that good stuff, you'll understand it a little better. But believe me, as you continue to work, that's where the alignment of money comes from, is from the heart. So when you're able to, because it's a sacrifice of love, you know, um, and that's self love, self discipline, being able to be financially disciplined. So it's an act of love that comes from the heart, right? So once you're able to do that, you'll be able to play around a little bit and have some little friendly fun, you know. Eight, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, okay, 3. So that's the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, they say. It's a number 3, 4, and 8. You end up getting threes. So how is that something that you can relate to? Now, I promise there's more than one card in this deck. All right. There's wonderful messages at the bottom. We're gonna see what card we get today. Now I shuffle this, and this is not a whole tarot reading. But I shuffle this in 4K, as the kids would say, for you guys, so you all can see that this portion of it is spirit led, for one. So this is what the divine wants us to discuss and to reveal and to work on, on our journey. So it's the alignment that you will see, just from me doing it in real time for you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do my thing, and I'm gonna shuffle for you guys. Give me just a second. All right, spirit. I couldn't even get it out. I didn't even get to ask. Going ahead and gave us 2 cards this time. All right, let's see. Oh, bright future. Bright future is the card. It says, stop worrying. Everything is going to be fine. Oh, that is so beautiful. Oh, look at the card and the colors. Oh. And I said I don't know these goddesses, but some of them I do. Like Lakshmi, she is the goddess of financial abundance too. So abundance, period. Beautiful. Yes, in which again, that's the alignment for financial discipline. So being financially disciplined and remaining financially disciplined, you will see success, and you don't have to worry. Um, and this one is sensitivity. This other card that we got, and it says you are becoming increasingly sensitive. Avoid harsh relationships, environment, situations, and chemicals. Ah, again, the alignment. So again, from this card here, self-love, right? Self-love, the practice. Okay, the fifth chakra, I'm pretty sure it's the fifth chakra, is your heart. And the heart chakra is represented by the color green. And again, here's the card and it's green. Um, and so this again tells me, and it's in alignment with both of these cards, that shows, okay, self-love. And this is an act of self-love. Removing yourself from harsh situations, harsh relationships as you continue to grow. Even just talking and discussing what we talked about today from the documentary, just having this conversation, just watching that is considered to be traumatic. Because that's abuse and you're exposing yourself to abuse. Again, that's why I don't watch TV, but you're exposing yourself to abuse. So take some time after this episode, sit with yourself, sit by yourself, or do something fun for yourself, something that's relaxing, something that you enjoy. Go find something that you want to eat, snack on, like some chips or something, I don't know, popcorn, something healthy preferably. I'm working on it, with y'all. um but yeah, so be sensitive, it's the act of self-love, being able to see and being aware, and because you're becoming sensitive and because you are healing and because you are doing the work, you're going to be a little bit more sensitive. And that is perfect, because as you are growing, that is naturally the transition of your growth, is becoming sensitive and not exposing yourself to those harsh situations. um so kudos to you, or to us, for getting this card, because it's a sign of growth. And then this one is just saying, stop worrying. Stop worrying. You don't have to worry. You know, you're in alignment. Keep doing what you're doing. You know, everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Take some time for yourself. Love on yourself. Pay attention to your finances and take care of yourself. And everything will work out and you will be okay. Ah, such a beautiful message. But definitely write about it. Write about what financial discipline looks like for you, how you feel about it. Is there any stresses or anything that concerns you right now? And what can you do to help relieve that stress? What can you take off of your plate? Or what is a task that you know that you need to do in order to move in the right direction with this? But don't put too much pressure on yourself, because everything's going to be taken care of. But give yourself some time to love on yourself, be a little bit more attentive to your needs, because you are growing, you are healing. So love on yourself every day, all the time. Because who's gonna love you better than you, right? Who's gonna love you more than you? Nobody. Nobody but not. You gotta do that for yourself, honey. All right. Well, I appreciate you all sticking with me and listening in and growing with me. So excited for you all and myself as we grow through this journey. I will be back hopefully soon, very soon. We'll try to get this next episode recorded tomorrow. I can't make any promises though, y'all. It's my daddy's birthday weekend. He done went on to the upper room. So my time this weekend is going to be celebrating him. So in honor of him, it's a couple activities that I know that he would done, and he loves to celebrate his birthday. So that's what I'm gonna be doing this weekend. So if I get a minute, some downtime, I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, hit y'all with another episode because I have been a little behind because I've been sick. But anywho, I'm gonna let y'all good, lovely people go. So until next time, everybody, peace and love unto you. Thank you. See ya.